If you have rested, slowed down, set the right boundaries, and you're still exhausted, something deeper is going on. I don't want to repeat burnout advice. You already know. But instead, I want to talk about why you keep ending up back here and offer a different way to think about recovery. People don't burn out just because they work too much. They burn out because they spend years holding themselves together, staying sharp, staying useful, staying composed, even when they're tired, stressed, or overwhelmed. The problem isn't that you didn't recover, it's that you were never allowed to fall apart in the first place. Most burnout advice and recovery tools isn't wrong. Rest helps. Time off helps. Slowing down matters. But for some of us, it's just a band-aid. It doesn't last because the stressors never actually go away. So even when you're off, your mind still has those tabs open and it keeps running those tabs. You know you're going back. The deadlines are still there. The financial pressure is still there. The responsibility is still yours. You might be resting, but nothing is actually resolved or completed. And then there's another layer people don't often talk about. For some of us, slowing down feels awful, not peaceful. Time away sometimes forces us to confront inner demons in the stillness, the quiet. It makes the voices louder. It brings guilt, self-disgust, fear of who you are without output. If your sense of worth is tied to being productive, useful, or ahead, rest doesn't feel like recovery. It feels like falling behind. I see this pattern a lot in people with high standards. Not because they're better than anyone else, but because achievements became a way for them to stay okay with themselves. For a lot of people, our sense of worth was conditional early on. You were praised when you did well, needed when you performed, valued when you delivered. Achievement helped you feel acceptable, sometimes even likable, and it worked. It masks a lot of pain, and a lot of times covered over deep shame. It protected you from parts of yourself you didn't want to face or didn't feel safe facing. So slowing down isn't always neutral. It brings up old stories. Stories that remind you things like, if I'm not producing, I'm nothing. I'm worthless. If I stop, I'll fall behind. If people really see me, they won't want to stick around. That's why for a lot of high achievers, burnout isn't always about doing too much. It's about trying to earn the right to exist, to prove you're worthy, to feel lovable, or to finally be okay with yourself and to make up for something you've been carrying for a long time. There's another layer underneath all of this. Burnout doesn't always start at work or college or school or whatever project you committed yourself to. It started much earlier with a quiet belief, a message that you deeply internalized that something about you wasn't enough. Maybe you were criticized a lot, or compared, or bullied, or made to feel like you were a problem that needed fixing. So you learned to outperform that narrative and become the hardest working person in the room. Achievement became your antidote. It became a way to redeem yourself, to prove you weren't lazy or broken or behind, that you were capable. And to keep that going, you couldn't stop. Stopping meant risking being exposed, being seen as flawed, ordinary, like everyone else, human. And again, it worked. You earned respect. You gained credibility, received rewards and praise. People treated you better. And along with that, you acquired a sense of safety and belonging. And somewhere in there, you're beginning to just accept and love who you are. But here's the cost. Some people exhaust themselves not because they don't know how to rest, but because rest brings them face to face with years, even decades of silence, old beliefs running in the background about who they are. And staying busy is easier than sitting with that. Burnout makes sense when you understand what achievement has been carrying for you. The pressure, the shame, and the fear you didn't have space to feel. So no, work alone didn't bring you out. It protected you from sitting with your shadows. The parts of you that feel undesirable, unsafe, or not enough. Yes, Do the practical stuff. Most burnout tools help you rest better and manage your energy. Optimize your sleep, take time off, exercise, eat a balanced diet, set the right boundaries, know your limits, take on fewer commitments, simplify your routines, and even practice meditation and mindfulness to train your attention and focus instead of trying to control your thoughts. That all matters. These are all healthy lifestyle habits that are important, and it can create space. And you need that space to reconnect with your values, process emotions, and connect with yourself. Without them, recovery doesn't even start. But here's what most people miss. Many of these tips and tools assume that the problem is mostly external. And for high achievers, these all can add to the burnout and become performative. One of the strongest patterns we see in burnout over time isn't how many projects you take on, the amount of workload you have. Sure, you can absolutely spread yourself thin by taking on too much, but very deep and strong indicator for burnout long term is when someone's sense of worth is tied to output. When how you feel about yourself depends on how much you produce. Rest never really feels safe. You don't rest to recover. You rest just enough to get back in the game. And this is why burnout recovery isn't just about doing less. It's about loosening the belief that you have to earn the right to rest. That's the deeper work. The practical steps create space, but deep recovery happens when you learn how to be okay inside that space without proving anything. If your life still demands a lot, and I mean the weight of responsibilities and moral obligations you have internalized as your own and the standards you hold yourself to, recovery isn't just to rest more, because when stress stays high, your mind doesn't magically shut off. It keeps tracking what's waiting for you. That's why time off can feel like a temporary pause, not real relief. I'll leave you with this. If you weren't trying to prove anything anymore, if you no longer felt the pressure to be who you think you're supposed to be, even when no one is asking that of you, what would you give yourself permission to let go of?